Buckle up, okay? I'm going back to this podcast because I'm trying to find the names of these deities and how the people in this podcast link the deities back to Babylon. And this is all about Irish mythology and stuff like that. I actually came across this because I thought I saw um, a spirit. I don't know how to say it. It was like a little, probably about somewhere between 3.5 feet tall, naked, pink, naked dude, um, wrapping himself around one of my trees in my front yard, a maple tree, looking in through the window at my house while I was leaving for work one night. Uh, when I say night, it wasn't dark. It was like, sun was still up. It was just around 8:30. So I could still see everything. I just found it so strange that there was a guy in my yard who was like peering around the side of the tree at my house. So I just drove right off the road, right into the yard, trying to confront this man. Because I'm like, what the heck's going on, And as I drove up to the tree, he slowly goes around the side of it and just disappears, And I get out of the car and there's a wide open field. So he didn't run off. He didn't run away. He didn't climb up the tree. But I've seen what I've seen, So I've been looking into what's around here, here in Western New York. And something I thought was interesting, the Native Americans don't tell me about this, okay? It's actually the Caucasian people who told me about this, that the Native Americans are superstitious about fairies in trees, okay? So I was talking to one gentleman, says he's of Irish descent. We work together. He worked at the state park nearby, and he was telling me about like the part of this state park is named after Ireland, And he was telling me about how there's mounds out there, and it's the only time he's ever felt anything spooky and evil is when he was near the mounds. But he told me stories about how these things were brought home when people went into the woods just for hiking and stuff like that, and they terrorized these people's homes, Nightmare. Excuse me, got hiccups, nightmares and all that stuff. So that's what got me into listening to these things. So it's like, okay, what are they, and how do you defeat them? Because I've seen what I've seen, and I don't know how to say it. Like, it wasn't. I was seeing things. I've seen a little short man, somewhere like 3.5 feet tall, naked, looking in the window in my house, bald. And when he didn't even look at me. He didn't even look at me. It was like when he noticed that I was, instead of pulling off and going on my normal routine, I whipped into the yard. He just slowly started going around the tree and just disappeared. So, anyways, enough of that. So yeah, now I'm going through these episodes, and they just hit something. And I was trying to look this up because I was spelling it wrong, because this woman's going to explain. I was actually spelling it the way we're taught in English, the way it sounds, Tua Dan. Okay. She just explained what this name really is, and it made me stop in my tracks because we've heard this name. Some of us have heard this name, and I'm like, okay, what's really going on? Because where this name is popular is completely on the other side of the world from where Ireland is. So listen to this.
Where we left off, Shreng, who is the champion of the Firbolg, was sent to investigate news of a mysterious tribe who came from the sky in ships disguised as dark clouds. And he encounters, along this journey, he encounters Brez, who is a beautiful looking warrior who is acting on behalf of his tribe, the Tua Dan.
So Brez tells Shrang that his people want half of the island and the Firbolg can keep the other half. So after they swap weapons, as was the custom, the two strike up a bit of a friendship and seem to be committed to a peaceful resolution. So our story today takes up from there. But just before we continue, just thought I'd mention that a friend of ours, Paul Reynolds, who is not the RTE news reporter, just important to point out, so he was listening to the show while he was out for a walk there last week and pointed out something that could cause a bit of confusion, and that's the name of the god people, the Tua Dan.
Yeah, so if you're thinking in terms of English spelling and pronunciation, it can sound like a bit like the instructions on a prescription, take 2 a day or something. But it's actually Irish, Mark. That was Mark's joke. I didn't like that. but it's actually Irish.
I think
so
it was actually Paul's joke, but
well, anyway, we'll struggle on. It's an Irish word, and it's Tua is the first word, and day. So that's spelled Tua or Tua Th, and
Look at that. T. Why did it mess that up? TU. Yeah, they even though when they wrote this, they messed it up because they put the URA. But that's not what she spelled. She just spelled. She clearly said what?
actually Irish.
I think
so
it was actually Paul's joke, but
well, anyway, we'll struggle on. It's an Irish word, and it's Tua is the first word, and day. So that's spelled Tua or Tua Th, and then DE with an accent called a fada on the E. So Tua in this context means people, and day means God. So effectively, what the Tua Day are the God people.
And this also seems like a good place to mention the use of the term Tua Dan instead of just the Tua Day from the medieval period on. We mentioned this last week and said we'd come back.
The Tua Dan, the God people of Danon, or the Danon God people. That he just said that. He said the other name for it is the Tua Day, and she said Tua people, Day deity God, Danon.
To it. So while it's not exactly clear where the Danon element actually came from, most modern commentators will tell you that it derives from the goddess Danu, the chief god of the pantheon. But there are two problems with this. Firstly, up until the 10th century, they are only ever referred to as the Tua Day if they're given a collective name at all. And secondly, there are no stories concerning the goddess Danu. In fact, there's no mention anywhere of a goddess called Danu until after the Tua Day become the Tua Day Danon.
So the obvious reason for a name change, though, is that actually Christian writers were pretty uncomfortable calling them the God people, so they came up with something else. And now that that's cleared up, let's get on with part 2 of the dawning of the day.
And this is what came to mind. This kid here, Tua. The Tua Day, Tua, right? And the only thing missing here is what the TH at the end. But that's what I thought of when she actually spelt out the word, the Tua Day. So here's his full name, but I was like, wait a minute, how are these people over here? And I understand they give him the Tua is here is a short for his full name, but I'm like, how did they make that connection? You know, how are they using a name that's supposed to be connected to these Irish people that quote unquote came from the sky, right? All right, so let's see. Hindu probably will be the best one that's gonna translate it. Yeah, because the English is gonna murder this.
Tuanigamul pola Dananya Tagavilo.
Danyana, what? That's not even the name that's in the top in the Hindu, so that's why.
Tuanigamanul pol Doni Tamuvailoa.
Donnie, yeah. So I mean, this guy's even his middle name is connected to Dan, right? Or this other Don, whatever the deity that they're trying to say it's not connected to. They don't have no problem. The Samoans have no problem still connecting it to that name, right? Because they were saying, oh, it might be this female goddess of their pantheon. But we don't see the connection because the church says it's not there. Oh, okay. Okay, well, here's a kid that was born in 98, and his name his name has the Tua part, and it has the Dan part. So I was excited when I seen that. And then down here, look, like all right, get into his parents, right? His early life. And all right, so and this is the other part. Just right before I point out the part I thought was interesting with his parents' part. So where again did the Samoan people sail from? So here we go. Let's see, this is my.
Gal
Here we go.
Galu and Diane Tamuvailoa.
Diane. So this is the part about the father's name, Galu. It just seems to have something to do with crashing waters, mounting waves, ocean waves, that kind of thing. So nothing really, I mean, it's to be expected. It's Hawaii, right? And it could just be their mom and dad gave them this name out of nowhere, really not caring. But Diane means divine, and it derives from the Latin. So yeah, I felt like an LA night. So here's something that the boys and I were watching. It caught our eye. It made me think about the whole idea of the Pope, collecting souls, and the king. I just don't remember which king it was who, granted that all the souls belong to him. And you always ask, sorry, why does the Pope see value in collecting souls? Things like that, and it makes you think of the Lord's Prayer, because I asked this question to some people I respect, whenever we talk about this, because it bothers me that it happened to me, right? I did the Lord's Prayer when I was like 11, and I don't know why, but the one time, because I did it a few times, but the one time I finally did it, I felt something leave my body. That idea where they say, oh, hey, you feel light as a feather, that's your sin leaving your body. And it took me a few years later when I was like 17 and I was working at this Christian camp and summer camp, and I remember the leaders told us to stop telling people that you'll feel something, you'll feel light, you feel your sin leaving you, because they said that's not the case all the time. But I mean, which made me raise my eyebrows, because I'm like, when I was growing up, that's what they always told us. Oh, when you say the Lord's Prayer, you know what it takes when you feel light as a feather, you feel your sin leaving. Now they were like, hey, don't tell the kids that, don't tell the people that, because if it happens, your soul leaves the body, or your sins are taken away, right? And you don't feel anything, the person will then give up and be discouraged. So we were being taught to con people and lie. That was the first time I realized there was something going on. I was like, wait a minute, that goes against everything we were always taught. So like I said, I've always tried to figure out what left my body that day. Okay. And I've read books, well, not read, I'm sorry. I listened to books when I'm at work. What's it called? There was one book, it was called The Loss of a Soul. I gotta stop saying that. I've read a book, and it's just listening to them when, there's a difference. So, that was the closest thing I thought was interesting about this whole thing. But this episode was on Spider-Man, Sins of the Father. Catchy title, another eyebrow raising. What are you really saying? This is what made the boys and I stop, and we're like, okay, they put this in a cartoon.
That's two I owe you. Who's counting? Turn up the flower.
So here, this creature wants to come into the world and rule. And again, I could hear Vince's voice in my head when I was talking about, Conan the Barbarian, and how he had to have the wizard Rathamon use the reptilian people to set up pyramids all over the world and find a specific crystal to put on top of them. So when there was enough pyramids and the light hit these pyramids just enough, it charged them, and they opened up a portal, and they let the Seth, the Cobra God from Egypt, back into our plane of existence. I remember Vince always said, how powerful can this thing really be if it needs the help of the lower species, the lower life form, to free it? These things can't be God. They're playing around. Which I mean, I was never like the one who is gonna be like, oh man, Seth is the God. He's or something like that. Like I had my mind set. You know what I'm saying? And people, I think it's because I talk about Buddhism and other stuff a lot, that people, I think they get the idea that, I'm wavering, but it's like, nah, I know what I'm doing. I haven't changed. But anyways, so this thing needs the help of Venom. Apparently, Venom are things that he created, the symbiotes that he created in his planet, he needs them to come to Earth, use humans to open this portal and let him out, and that's what's going on in this scene here. And then Spider-Man and is supposed to stop him. So, if you were just wondering what the heck's going on. The souls returning back to the people. The way he opened the portals, he had to collect souls.
Ashley, you all right?
So it made me wonder, who is the Pope working for? Right? I mean, the face of the organization is supposed to be Jesus. So is he collecting souls to let him out of hell? I mean, for us, for the Afro-Asiatic, it's Apollyon, right? You know, he's the one that's going to be released. Apollo. You know? So, that, I mean, I'm like, this might just answer the whole thing right there. This is the reason why they want souls. This is the reason why they you know, they're the only ones that pay attention to the souls is the ones that want to release him. And it's crazy because, you know, it's almost crazy because I don't mean to laugh, but it's like Christians try to be, you know, their version of what's right and upright and stuff like that, and they don't even realize they are a tool and they're being played. So, the only thing I'm just gonna say, I'm trying to work in making videos. It's just I've become the third shift supervisor at my job, and I've got people now I have to, you know, monitor and take care of, and it's just been hard at home, you know. I'm only getting like 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and then I'm up with my boys, you know, 10 hours a day. So, no excuses. It's just that's where my absence has been. So, take care, everyone.